What's up guys? AFK Journey released on 27th of March on various countries, and I had the privilege of playing the game during 2 different test servers. I played it a good amount. Actually right now I'm on the test server and not the live release. And today we're gonna do a video about 6 tips for starting out, something that I learned during my playtime on the test server, something that I think will help you guys out and get a little bit more efficient start. But this video is sponsored. Thanks a lot for AFK Journey for doing that. And I do have another video about the game for my first impressions if you still haven't downloaded the game and want to see how it looks like in practice. But for the tip number 1, it's going to be AFK battles, related to the actual name of the game as well. And in the bottom left of the screen, you can see the AFK progress, which I'm at 528 at this point. And this is basically the main way in the game that you level up and progress. Of course, in gacha games, collecting champions is very important as well. But the main way to progress in the story at the start is definitely going to be levels. And you definitely want to min-max the AFK battles to level up as fast as possible if you truly care about it. But basically how it works is that over time your minions, the hamsters that we can see fighting there right now, they are gathering you XP and loot even when you're not online. And this is the main way that you progress. You can get basically 4 different things: money, XP, hero essence, and then items. And all of these are very important, but the main 2 things that gatekeep you from leveling is going to be XP books and hero essence. Both of them are equally important, and in my experience you generally tend to lack the hero essence, the purple substance that you can see we get 2000 every day. You generally lack more of this than XP. At least it was like that in the beta server, but the higher level that you get on these AFK battles, the more you get of these items. And basically every time you progress in the game, maybe you level up or you get some new champions or items and so on, you want to come here, do these AFK battles, get the maximum level of stage that you can. It's very fast, it doesn't take that much time. And then you can move on to other content. I will basically do this every time that you make major progression in the game, and especially at the end of your gameplay session. This is going to be almost more important than progressing in the story or doing daily quests, though I would definitely also try to do daily quests every day. They don't take that much time. Then you also have this option in the right side of the screen that you can basically use free instant attempt to get 120 minutes worth of AFK rewards. You definitely want to do this every day. Ideally you would do it at the end of your session to get the highest amount of hero essence. But then after the first attempt you can also do it with gems. Oh, and the higher level you get, more attempts you get, but at this level I can do 2 free attempts every day. And after that it will cost gems, and you might consider that is it worth using gems for this? You could use this to roll some gacha and possibly rank up some champions, but it's not that much and it's definitely worth doing, so you always want to use all of these attempts every day, especially in the early game. This is gonna increase the speed of your progression a lot. And then for the tip number 2, you definitely want to use the affinity bonuses in the battles. You can see on the top left of the screen that we have this leaf icon that you get from the faction bonuses. And it's pretty self-explanatory here that currently we have 4 factions, or there's basically 2 other factions, I'll talk about them more, but they are the Celestial and Hypogean. There's only 2 champions in each faction and they are a lot harder to get. They basically count as substitute for a champion of any faction, but if you use 3 champions of one faction, then you get the 10% stat bonus. If you use 3+2, so 2 of one faction and 3 of another one, you get 14, which is the one that I'm currently using. Generally, you would want to min-max this as much as possible, at least go for the 14, but possibly for the 18 or 22. It kind of depends on the champions that you get and what champions happen to be your highest level of rarity, because that also affects it. But you definitely don't want to use a team of 5 random champions from different factions. At the minimum, you want to go for 3+2. Maybe you can do it at the first 15 minutes of gameplay, but you will definitely be able to do it after the first day. And if you do some battles, you will realize that it's definitely worth going for. Now later in the game, you can also get these Celestials and Hypogeans, but they are a lot harder to get and they come from endgame content. So that's not something that you really want to worry about early on. Then my third tip would actually be about the champion rarities, because of course in gacha games you're gonna pull champions and you're gonna level up their levels, of course, but also their rarities, and that makes a huge difference. At higher rarities you will unlock skills that otherwise wouldn't be unlocked. Like you can see right now that my Doran is at Supreme Rarity, and this rarity would unlock a skill that I wouldn't be able to use otherwise. And when I get to Supreme Plus, I will unlock one more skill to use. Of course, I will also get a huge stat boost, so it's important for that as well. And there's a third thing as well, that you basically unlock the champion specific weapon once you get to high enough level of rarity. I think it actually was Supreme level of rarity. Then you unlock this, which you can also upgrade with tokens that you get from daily boss and so on. This will increase your champion stats a lot, and basically the point here is that you might have some favorite champions and favorite factions, and so do I, but if you happen to get lucky and improve the rarities of couple champions from a specific faction, you definitely want to swap out your main team and game plan if the RNG roll just goes that way. As you can see, we have this very interesting resonance system in AFK Journey, that basically all of your champions are at the level of your lowest champion, making it so that you can easily swap out champions at any time. The same thing goes for items as well. This is the gear that all of my support champions have. I don't have to put any specific gear on any specific champion, which makes it a lot more user-friendly and flexible. Meaning, like I said, that if you happen to get lucky with some specific faction or champion, even though he might not originally be your favorite one, or maybe not the best champion in the game, but the higher level of rarities definitely make it worth switching out. And that's why, for instance, I'm going with the 3+2 faction instead of 4+1 or 5 of the same faction. I might change that later on if I get more higher level of rarity on the champions on the same faction. And also you will need champions of every faction, so don't get too hung up on one specific faction. There is some content in the game, like the Legend Trial, where you can only use champions of that specific faction, so you will be using all of these in the end game anyway. And like I mentioned, it's gonna be kind of RNG. You might get much more lucky with the rarities of one specific faction, so don't count on just using one of them. Then for my tip number 4, even though I just said that you don't want to get hung up on specific faction, you can still have your favorite factions and champions, and some of them are definitely gonna turn out to be better than others. Even though I said the rarity is a very big deal, But actually the game has very interesting system. You basically have the wish list and you can kind of decide which ones you want. Basically, if we are going to pull a yellow rarity champion at this point, it is gonna be one of these champions that I have already chosen. It can't be anything else, meaning that there's basically 4 legendary or yellow champions per faction. Some might have more, I guess, but generally it's 4. Mauler happened to have 5, but the others have 4. It's actually kind of interesting with Mauler, because this marksman champion, Ruse, he's actually not in Honor Arena, which is a game mode where you do PvP without using your own owned champions, which I like a lot. And this champion isn't in it, and I think pretty much all of the other ones are, so that might be the reason why Maulers have 5. But you can choose what you consider the best or your favorite champions in the wish list. I would generally say that you want to be pretty balanced and try to have at least 1 tank in every faction, probably 1 healer as well, but you might use the 3+2 or 4+1 tactic. So you don't necessarily need a healer or support in every faction, but then you do have the game mode that I just showed, where you can only use 1 specific faction. So probably ideally you would have maybe even 2 tanks and 1 healer. And in my experience, this is pretty much the champions that I prefer to have on my wish list. Now I'm not saying that this is the best one, though I would say that it's pretty educated guess, because I did play a massive amount of Honor Arena, which is the game mode where you do PvP without your own champions, and you basically get to experience the end game and use end game level of rarity on champions and items, and this is the champions that I found the most helpful. Definitely, if I mention some specific ones, I would say that Temesia, which is this kind of horse knight in Lightbearer faction, she's definitely one of the more interesting ones, even though it says that she's tank role, but in my experience she was kind of like a CC based nuker. Unlike other champions, she's a bit different, and every time she attacks, she charges in the map to the farthest enemy and stuns them and deals damage. And I found her a very good damage dealer in PvP, even though her main role is tank, but she kind of doubles up both as damage dealer and tank. She was definitely one of the standout champions. Also from the Lightbearer faction, I would say that Lucius, who is also a tank, was one of my favorite ones. He's purple rarity, so you have much easier time to get him, and he basically does heals and shields as a tank and kind of doubles up as support and tank. Sometimes you can definitely use him without any heals from anybody else. Then other ones that I could mention, my favorite ones, this might actually be the highest rarity champion that I got right now. Rus is very good in PvP and many of the boss battles. We have quite a few different bosses, but he has this interesting unique mechanic that no other marksman champion in the game currently has. And that is that he's constantly moving around the map, meaning that he doesn't easily take damage from the boss AoEs, and he doesn't get caught in the stuns of enemy players in PvP. He also does ultimate that does massive AoE damage on everybody. That is super good on PvP and story progression. I do recommend him. Then Smokey and Murky, I think probably might be the best support currently in the game. He does heals, though he's not the best healer, but he also buffs up the attack of your team, which is very good and does a lot of utility apart from healing. He was definitely my favorite support and very popular in PvP. Basically, pretty much all of the teams in Honor Arena, they are either using him as their support, or then they are using Heavyan, which is the best healer in the game. She doesn't really do anything else but heals, but she does tons of heals and is very relevant. I would definitely put her on the wish list. I keep accidentally clicking out of here. I will mention one more champion on the Mauler faction. There is other champions that do the same thing, but Kruger has multiple skills that decrease the enemy defense, and that can be very good in boss battles and so on, so I would definitely go for him for that. Then on the Wilder faction, another champion that I would mention is Granny Daphne, and she was one of the 2 most popular tanks in PvP. She's very annoying and pretty much probably even the best tank. The other good tank, or I guess there is 3 good tanks, but I would say that the Lightbearer Knight one, Demesia, I would probably consider her more like a damage dealer, but the Granny also has good CC, but is very tanky, and she's probably the best pure tank for PvP, and very good for story progression as well. Another really good tank, or one of the other best tanks, would be Toron. He isn't quite as tanky as the Granny, but he does a very high amount of damage and has good utility. Probably my personal favorite one, but basically these 2 tanks was all that you will see in PvP. Also another, let's mention her as well in Greyborn. Sylvina is a purple champion and might not instantly be on your radar, but of course you can upgrade all of the champions to the max rarity. But she has this very interesting, unique skill that sets her out from the rest, and this doesn't make her very good for story progression at all. This is purely for PvP, but at the start of the battle, she teleports to the enemy that is basically on the same tile as her, but on the opposite side of the screen. And because she's an assassin, and you can instantly make her teleport to the enemy backline marksman or healer, if you put your best gear on her and make her very strong, she can basically instantly one-shot the healer, and then if she gets a kill, she will instantly teleport to another champion and snowballs the game. There's even this artifact that you can get in the Honor Arena mode that is specifically increasing her damage. I do recommend using that one if you happen to get it, but I would pretty much recommend this wishlist. You can definitely make some other variations to this, but in my experience I'm gonna go with this one on the live version as well. Then as the number 5 tip, I would say that in the early on when you're progressing in the game, the storyline can be very time consuming and overwhelming, but important part is that you do all of your daily activities that you can unlock, like for instance this Dream Realm is a boss battle. These don't take very long time at all to do. Some of them can take a lot of time, like the Arcane Labyrinth, but that isn't a daily activity. But your important daily activities would be the Dream Realm boss battle, doing 4 fights in Arena, possibly progressing in Legend Trial, but that's kind of like Arcane Labyrinth that you don't have to do it daily. You could do 1 battle in Honor Duel, though it might take a lot of time and you don't necessarily have to do all of the fights in one day. I think you need to do like 15 battles a week or 15 wins a week, and that's good enough. So you don't have to do this every day, but make sure to do your arena battles, Dream Realm boss battle, then you need to do your daily guild boss battle or the battle drill. Right now it's not up, but when it is up, this is something that you don't want to miss out, and none of these take a lot of time. And then of course you want to do your daily quests. If you only have a little bit of time to play the game, you can probably do all of these activities in 10 minutes. And if you do these plus collect the XP from the AFK battles and use gems there, you pretty much can deal with that as the only thing that you do on a day, and you will definitely get a lot of progression in the game. Then as a bonus tip, I actually already kind of talked about it, but Honor Duel was definitely my favorite part of the game. It's basically the way that you can experience the champions at higher levels and in-game items and so on. And you basically start here. Let's actually surrender and start out with the new match so you understand what we are dealing with. You don't use your own champions here. You use a set of random champions, and then after every battle with other players, oh, we actually got really lucky here. After every battle with other players, you can use the money that you earned, or the tokens that you can see here, and you can buy upgrades to your champions or buy items. And if you can get 9 wins, you basically win the tournament. This is the best way to experience all of the champions and items and kind of know the end game even when you're early on. But we actually got really lucky. I was just talking about this item. There's so many artifacts here that you're definitely not bound to get the one that you want all the time. And in my experience, I generally prefer to settle on a mediocre one than go with random artifact, because there's so many and I don't like using all of them. But we actually got the Pale Crown that I was just talking about before, which specifically increases the damage of Sylvina. The damage dealt by an allied Sylvina's first strike skill is increased by 2.2 times. She cannot be prioritized as a target for 8 seconds after using this skill. Each assist or skill on enemy hero grants an extra attempt at first strike again, which prioritizes attacking the weakest enemy. Now, if you go with her and you happen to get lucky and get some upgrades on her and some items that increase her damage, like this one, the more battles that you do in the game mode, the items are gonna rank up in rarity and you can get better ones. But we start out with the white items, and these different cards are champions from different faction or random factions. I'm gonna reroll here a couple times and see if we can get champions from the Graveborn faction. But okay, good. We got a team of 5. That's good enough. Let's buy another weapon as well. Hopefully we will get to showcase the best she can do. But this is going to be a live battle against another player. Actually, I don't know if it's gonna be easy to find battles anymore, because the game was just released and how many people are actually playing on the test server. But hopefully, maybe this guy, Warnell, shout out to him. Maybe he's also making a video, so thanks for him that we can test it. But you can basically place your champions the way that benefits you the most, and there's a lot nuance to it. We're not gonna get to all of that on today's video, but I intentionally didn't place Sylvina as the first 3. Basically, both of you picked 3 champions and then you picked 3 more. I wanted to see where he places his champions, and then I'm gonna decide where I put Sylvina. And I actually kind of made a mistake. I probably should have put her on this slot, but I can't change it anymore. But let's put her here on the far left side, and she would target one of the backline nukers, which is exactly what oh, actually, he put 2 tanks there, or a tank and warrior, so I kind of made a mistake and she ended up hitting that knight tank that I was talking about. This didn't go according to the plan at all, but if you were able to make her target the enemy reviver, that would be the best. That's why you want to save her as the last pick. But this map, and I kind of made a mistake, didn't give me the opportunity to put her in the right slot. I hope we're not gonna lose the fight on the video, but if it's a loss, then it's a loss, and I'm not gonna play another one for the video and erase my shame. Okay, it's definitely a loss. With her, the battles are kind of hit and miss. Sometimes you win it in like literally 5 seconds. Sometimes she does like one attack, it's a kill, then she does another attack, it's a kill, and the battle can literally take less than 5 seconds. It didn't happen this time. We don't have her at high level of rarity, and we don't have insane items on her, but you get the point, and this is a fun game mode. Even if you lose, I definitely do enjoy it, and like I said, I do recommend you guys playing this game if you have time, because it's gonna be overwhelming to start out. There's so many things to do, and the storyline is definitely gonna take a good amount of time to progress on. That's why, kind of like I said before, if you don't have the time to play 5 hours for the first couple days, then don't purely focus on the storyline. Make sure that you do the daily activities, and then you can progress on that. And maybe if you have time, then also play the other Duel and get to experience the end game of AFK Journey. But yeah, that's it for the video. I did make another one about my first impressions, so I'm not gonna talk about any of those. But I did like the game a lot. This video is sponsored. Thanks a lot for AFK Journey for sponsoring it. But I do sincerely recommend people to try out the game, and I will be playing it actively as well. Actually, you can find me on server 50 if you haven't created a character yet. Right now I'm on the test server, but on the live version I am on the server 50. When you create character, you can actually decide whichever server you want to go, and here is where you will find me. But that's it. Hope you enjoy the game, and see ya.